because there's no guaranteed money. But your outfits were quite expensive, right?
Yeah, I have one in the bag I bring with me on the road now for the Independence. Was $3,500.
Yeah, how did you
The
swing
red
that?
one-
Because I mean, you couldn't have been making much like Calgary and stuff
Yeah.
either, right?
Well, the red one was 7,500, and the blue one that I keep it for special occasions. It's most of the photos are taken was 10,000. A lot of guys thought I was crazy to do that, to have the costumes, and in fact, I was on the phone 2 nights ago with Jimmy Hart, and he brought that fact up that all the guys nowadays in the past 7 or 8 years have been cookie cutter.
Yep.
They all look the same. They had the short hair, the tan, muscle bodies, and the little short jock straps that they wore. And they didn't have the costumes, and they didn't have those things that you have to be set apart. Somehow people have to know. They recognize me from the black hair, the side. Now I could have worn the black hair and the sideburns and walked out and dressed in a t-shirt and running pants
But it wouldn't have been the same.
No.
It would have been like.
But when you see those flashy outfits, or when you see Hogan with the red and yellow, and I went back to this with Jimmy the other night. I said, I ran a couple of shows in Winnipeg on my own, and I told them to make me posters that looked like the Barnum and Bailey Circus posters, the red and yellow, because those posters have been around for 100 years, and those posters still get attention.
Right. They resonate.
And then I said, the red and yellow that Hogan wears is the same colors as the circus posters, and it brought attention. When you see this guy going out with his headband and his blonde hair and his big tan body, and he's got on this red yellow outfit, it's like, gosh, look at this. And it stood out. We all stood out. There was Jake the Snake Roberts. There was the Dragon. There was the Roddy Piper. There was a cowboy, Bob Orton. There was Mr. Wonderful, Paul Orndorff.
I mean, and even going a generation before, like George the Animal Steel,
Right.
Bald guy, 300 pounds with a hairy back, the Sheik.
Right.
And that's part of the reason why I think I was able to be so successful, because I was a smaller guy back then. And because I spent the money on the outfits. Like even now, like I try and get the guys, I'm trying to help these young guys, and I got like 8 different ring jackets. They're all worth, nowhere near what you're spending. But, and the guy's like, I don't want to spend any money. I'm like, and they're all waiting for the office to give them a push.
But that's why, and I say the same thing. If you don't invest in yourself, if you don't invest in your job, if you don't invest in your business, what can you expect to get out of it?
Yeah.
If you don't go out and try, I'll say this: desire, dedication, and hard work. If you don't have the desire to succeed, you won't. If you're not dedicated, if you don't want to go and spend that money to get those nice ring jackets or nice pair of boots to wear or something that makes you different from somebody else, you're not going to make it. And then you got to work hard. And they sit there. I was the one time, going back to this WCW, I go down to that Orlando thing where they were taping, and I see all these power plant guys. They're laying around on the floor sleeping. Now, they didn't get in a van and have to drive 400 miles from Atlanta to Orlando. They didn't get in a little Toyota car with 4 or 5 of them packed in there. They flew. They had plane tickets. And instead of them watching the matches or watching the interviews or listening or talking to the veterans, they were on the floor sleeping because they were tired because they had to work out that day.
Yeah, Steve Kern gave me the best advice. Steve Kern said, watch as much wrestling as humanly possible.
Yeah.
And it's like today, all these guys want to do a bunch of moves. I'm like, you can do 8,000 moves. If you can't talk, nobody gives a shit.
Right.
You got to be able to talk them into the seats. And that's the other problem, I think, with the business is that nobody cuts money promos anymore because they're too busy just cutting entertainment. Like the office goes, hey, just cut, entertain the people, but you're not selling tickets. You're not drawing. You're not.
The fellas haven't perfected their craft. They haven't taken the time to drive along in the car, look in the mirror in a hotel room, and stand in there for hours and talk in that mirror and talk. Or drive along and you and I talk and cut an interview, or you say something that sticks in my head. A year from now, I might do an interview and use that. I might say something to you, and that same night you go out in your interview because it put a thought in your head. Then you go do an interview around that whole subject that we might have been talking about in the car that day. And the guys haven't done their diligence, their duty to better themselves that way.
But they think somebody owes them. Like now, like they think back in the day that somebody gave us a free pass, and I had to earn my spot, and you had to earn your spot. It wasn't like somebody goes, "Hey, we'll make you a star. We'll give you this gimmick." I mean, I came up with my own shit. You came up with your own shit. I had to come up with my own shit a couple of times, so I found one that to work the right way.
Gosh, it's trial and error, and I tell them, don't be afraid to try things, but just don't try some flip big move out in front of the audience or on television that you've never done backstage or that you've never practiced in a wrestling school. Johnny Rodz had a great thing. I said, Johnny, you train these guys. I said, do they keep coming back to further their training? He says, no, when they get one booking, that's it. They never come back.
Yeah.
They're a wrestler. So I said, but why wouldn't? I got booked and I trained for 9 months after I had my first booking. I went and got booked on Fridays and Saturday nights, went back to the training center on Sunday and Wednesday.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's just, I mean, you and I, we wanted it so, I can imagine now, but we never really talked at length, but we wanted it so bad. That's what we had to do. You eat, sleep, and breathe it, and even though, and today it's the guys, I mean, I guess, I don't know what it is. I mean, I think they just want to be stars or they just want to be acrobats, but I mean, join Cirque du Soleil or something, but yeah, it's the wrong venue.
I don't know. I've not really sat down with them and gotten into their past personal lives, where they came from and what they've had to do or how they succeeded on different things. But maybe they might be college graduates. Maybe they had pro contracts.
No, they're not.
Players. Maybe they were bodybuilders that made lots of money. Or did they not understand?
It's all small guys now too. It's kind of weird. It's like, when I got into business, everybody wanted to be the Road Warriors.
Yeah.
And then Shawn Michaels got over, and so everybody wants to be Shawn. But Shawn's talented there, but they're missing. So they do all the moves that Shawn does, but they're missing the star power, which to me, that's what makes them entertaining. It's not the moves. I mean, the moves are great, but that's all the window dressing to me.
They can say what they want, but I want to be like
Sure.
that guy.
Sure.
I want to be like The Rock. I want to be like, hell yeah.
Right.
These are the people that made the most money in our business. They didn't climb up on a top rope and do all the nonsense. They didn't have to climb to the top of the cage and jump off. And they said, well, those guys, they really weren't good performers. Really? They just sold out everywhere. They made $400 million a year. And you're telling me these guys, they're not any good? You're telling me Hogan didn't know how to wrestle? Hogan was a great amateur on a mat wrestler. He still is.
Same thing with Lawler. I mean, people thought, Lawler, what's he like, 50? I don't know, whatever he is now. But he's
70.
Yeah, he still takes much money. But you watch his old stuff, and he actually could move. He was a hell of an athlete, but he learned. Like, to me, I don't know how you guys get along, but he's one of my favorites to watch in the day because he would do all the little things, get so much out of everything. Like, I remember they did this one thing where he's working Razor, and Razor always throw the toothpick. And so the king had brought his own toothpick with him, went down selling, came up with the toothpick in his eye, like it got stuck in his eye. I mean, it was just the little things. And got 5 minutes out of it.
Harley Race was the same way. The Funks were that way.
Yeah.
They were able to well, that's why they could do an hour in a match. They were able to go out and take the little things and make one bump. Harley Race could take one bump. I saw him wrestle Jake Snake, Damien one night. It was the best carnival sideshow I'd ever seen. I said, I'd go back to the locker room. I said, Harley, that's incredible. That was the most incredible thing. I've not seen it since I was a young kid and went to the county fair and saw some guy rip a chicken's head off and eat a raw chicken. It was, those things stuck in my head. I must be sick and demented maybe. But anyway, Harley takes the snake and he wrestled, and the place went crazy when the snake was on Harley. He put it around his neck and he went down and he rolled around. It was like one of those Tarzan movies where the snake was on Tarzan, and the chimpanzees are going nuts and people are and you're right, Lawler and those guys, and that's where I learned that style, and I learned how to be able to take that one bump, make it work for me for 2 minutes or 3 minutes, to take that one gimmick and hide it, walk around, and then hit the guy when everyone was screaming and the referee couldn't see it. Not just pull it out right in front. I don't know why they have a referee now.
It drives me nuts. It's so drives. What's
the referee for?
Or they get the heat behind the ref's back and the guy's choking him and gets caught. I'm like, what? Oh, it infuriates me.
What do you need a referee for?
I want to put a brick through the TV.
I see it now. They got the earplug in their ear. I think the referee, he's only a person to tell them when to, okay, go home.
Yeah.
Finish this match. Get out of the ring. Give me a break.
What was I going to say? You know what? You know who else did a lot of cool stuff like that was Colonel De Beers.
Oh gosh, yeah.
He did this great thing one time. He had to work Bryan Adams, and not that Bryan Adams. This was before Bryan even went to New York, so you can imagine he was a little stiff. You know what I mean? And So we were out in Portland. That's where I kind of got a big break, my first territory big break. And it was like a spot show at an armory, and the colonel's like, I don't want to work with, Brian. So he's like, what can I do? So he found some book, and it actually said job book on it too. And he comes out with it, flips the pages, and he's like, and he starts pantomiming a full Nelson, right? Flips the page, okay, goes out, locks up, goes for the full Nelson. Brian gets out of it, he comes back to the thing, looks to the book again, starts pantomiming, and it got like 10 minutes. I mean, it was so brilliant. And you really think that there's a handbook with a full Nelson in there, and he's reading it. And it was brilliant.
I stole one of his lines, and I use it quite often on the independents. I tell the young guys, listen, if they yell boring, well, you'll just take it down a notch.
Start out slow and taper off.
That's it. And he was one of those guys that believed, and I've tried this, and it really does work. You can put a guy in a headlock down on the mat and hold him there. And if you're a good heel, the people, sure, they're going to yell boring because they probably are bored. But if you bore them long enough, they get mad.
Yeah, but let's be honest. But let's be honest, though. If you're good enough, they're almost never going to yell boring unless there's like 100, 200 people. You know what I mean? They shouldn't be because, it should be a rarity, or like, it's like we used to go to Pittsburgh when I was in New York, and the people would make no noise. Not even when Kurt Angle was on top, they would make noise. I'm like, why did they come to the show? But there's the rare towns like that. But for the most part, they're not going to yell boring, because if you know what you're doing, it's like I always say, even when you're doing nothing, you should be doing something.
That the boring thing, it's never, to me, it's one of those things that if they're yelling something, they are at least watching.
Sure.
They're not getting up, going to the concession stand. They're not getting up, going to the car and leaving the building. That's when you have a problem.
Yeah.
That's when you bored them. Yeah. If they're saying boring, what they're trying to do is they're trying to get involved to make you do something.
Yeah.
Well, they paid to get in. I got in free. I know the ending of the match. They don't. They're not going to tell me what to do
exactly
and when to do it.
Sure.
So I took that from Colonel De Beers, that if you bore them long enough, they'll get mad. I think you can really start a riot with just the boring.
Watch thousands of exclusive shoot interviews right now on TitleMatchNetwork.com.